we're still, the only difference between in-house and out-of-house is we're selecting a private vendor to provide services for us. It's the same as busing, it's the same as custodial services, or plowing. The cost is still our cost. So if we accept the grant, then it becomes a revenue to us and it becomes part of our bottom line no matter what.
Another reason I caution the board for funding people. If this funding dries up, you know, it does impact your MDR. For a program that, if it disappears and you say, you know, we don't need this teacher, and I just feel that this is something that you don't do just because the money is there. You have to do it for the right reasons, you know. And I agree with you, early education is you know, a critical component to education, but I don't think that we're ready to start funding a preschool program for the long term, you know, absent these grant funds. I don't think we're there yet. The city of Torrington is a distressed municipality. We can't afford these kinds of things.
But then the greater chance for continued funding from the state, either through their Smart Start or through this. Because the biggest cost is the setup cost.
The teacher grants are not guaranteed.
No, the grant is a 4-year grant, but it's renewable annually. So at any point they could say.
I understand, and the grant application was totally reworked after getting a legal opinion.
The grant has not been written yet. The state has.
That's not the way it was presented last month, Ken.
Well, I can only tell you what I found out since the last time we got together, Bill, is when I talked to the state has not even asked for this money yet. The grant to the federal government goes in March. They need the information from the local groups that are going to provide the services so that they can put it all in the grant. So they're looking for information from 14 districts? 12 districts now. It was 14. Yeah, 2 districts have dropped out. There are 12 districts across the state that they are looking to take this on. And we're one.
You said that this was going to be 42 additional slots for children, right?
Yes.
New children. So how is those are 42 who are not being serviced now?
Yes.
But you say if we don't get this grant, we would still have to provide services for those 42?
Nope.
Who
for the
did you
20
say?
students that we currently service in pre-K special ed,
Okay.
those kids, we have been in non-compliance for 2 consecutive years and learned by the state. This conversation was 2 months ago and last month.
Okay.
Those 20 children have to be matriculated with regular ed students of their own age and their own age group. Currently, we send some of those kids out in the afternoon, but we are going to be required to send all of those kids out in the afternoon to private programs throughout the city if we don't provide some type of combined education.
And what's the dollar amount for that?
Well, we know sending a kid out half day is $9,100. The grant tells us that.
And the other thing is that
We have them for half a day now. We have 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon. So you would have to put them out for the other half.
But of that 9,000, how much is covered by the excess cost grant?
Well, the problem is that we're going to have to hire, if we send the kids out in the afternoon, the special ed teacher and para has to go with them. Currently, that special ed teacher and para stay at each school and take the next 10 kids. If we have to send these kids out, we're going to have to double that staff because they're going to have to deliver the services wherever these children have to go to get their mainstream education.
you can't just send a para with a child because the para has to be working in close proximity of the special education teacher. So if we can create the programs in our schools.
To answer your question, Andrew, we didn't put that cost together.
Okay, so just based on what numbers you just gave me, I assume that it's $20,000 a year per student of the 20.
Yep.
that we are required to service next year, so 20 times 20,000.
Plus transportation and
So it's
and
a
staff.
$500,000 that we're looking to spend for these 20 next year.
Not including salary.
Right, minimum,
Okay, and that's just the 20.
right.
Now, if we get this grant money, that will pay the entire cost of those 20 and allow us to add,
Well, not the entire cost of those 20, because we won't have to send them out. So that's an expense we won't have. It doesn't pay for those. Those kids are already in our school system, covered under our budget. They're in there this year, they were in there last year, they'll be in there next year. So those 20 kids are paid for already. What this does is it reduces our burden to send them out, to be compliant with the state.
Perhaps I misunderstood from last month's discussion. For some reason, I thought we were talking about 66 slots and not 42.
We are talking 66, but some of them are taking half-day slots that currently exist at private institutions and making them full-day.
Okay,
There are
that's-
42 new, what they
Okay,
call
that's-
additional slots.
Okay, that's where the conversation about the liability and such from last month. Thank you.
All right. Ellen, did you have a question?
Just budget is really looking at winding down on the exact cost of what the preschool program that we're running now in-house is actually costing us. Right now, it's costed out in multiple different sites and special ed and then also in some buildings. So we're looking at a consolidated version so we can actually put a price tag on what the 20 kids we have now is costing.
but what did we budget for those 20 when we created this year's budget? What was the numbers? Supposedly we zero-based budget everything. So what was the amount of money that you had placed in this year's budget for those 20?
Yeah, well, it's not here with us tonight, that's,
Yeah, because the other issue is you have the shared services of the staff that is servicing the 20 students and going out and servicing these students that are in these facilities. But when we looked at it, it looks like it's a little over $1 million is what we're looking at. So
Net
now,
for
You
those
have-
20?
right.
And that's what we had budgeted. We had budgeted $1 million for those.
Well,
you have, we're trying to get around because right now they're budgeted at East, they're budgeted at Vogel, they're budgeted at special ed, and that's what Hugh's working on, is trying to pull these things out and kind of put them under what categories they really belong.
Is this grant supposed to supplement what we're currently serving, or can it supplant?
No, it cannot supplant.
Okay, so regardless of what you budgeted in the past, this has to supplement what we're offering. The only benefit is the 20 kids that you feel are underserved.
We've been told they're underserved. It's not that we feel they are. The state has warned us 2 years in a row that we are underserving these
Okay,
children.
so
So it's not a feeling, it's a toll.
So, okay, and let's keep in mind that these students will age out if we get the grant for a few more years.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the penalties? If we've been admonished by the state for 2 years, we can go another year then, right? They don't do anything, they just tell us naughty, naughty.
no, we were admonished on the secondary level 2 years ago, and we've spent 3 years changing how you do your IEP, how you provide support to students. We had to add programs at the high school. You know, they'll come in and they'll tell you exactly what to do, when to do it, and when to get it finished by. You know how we could help, like with our special ed program? Say we didn't get this grant, and I would have come before the board and I would have said, I need to establish another early childhood classroom or 2 at East School. I will look for parents who would be interested in having their children attend that, those classrooms. And the children with special needs would come in and out exactly as what we're planning to do, so that they have a partial day or all of the day with typical peers. So we would have had to get all the furnishings, all the materials, everything, hire a teacher, hire paras, whatever it requires to have a quality early childhood classroom, or 2, or 4, so that we could establish our own program.
But that would still be cheaper than this if the grant isn't renewed.
It's what it's gonna cost.
That would be half the size. Because we're looking at 4 classrooms.
We don't need to do anything tonight anyway, because you said March 31st, I believe, is the.
We have to have the
No.
provider to them by the end of the month,
End of
February.
February.
No, they're asking for it tomorrow. But
I was
Well,
told.
because
I had
last
to
meeting,
have
we
it
were
provided.
told it was the weekend following the last meeting.
When I talked to the director
we
of,
did, wait a minute, we did have to submit who was gonna get it and number of slots, and
we
we
submitted
did
the
that.
number of slots, not who was gonna get it, just the
Right.
number of slots. I was told when I spoke to the woman that by the end of February, I had to have to them, or the city, or the Torrington schools had to have to them the provider of the service. Because they need the month of March to put the grant together, because they have to have it to the feds by the end of the month.
So if we don't commit tonight, we become the third school system that is no longer in the running for this grant.
Yes, we do. Yes.
I'm just a little concerned about the fact that this has all morphed, and we need to decide about this tonight, and this is the first we're hearing of it, unless people were able to attend the budget meeting. I mean, I don't know, I don't remember seeing in our packet anything about our school system becoming the ones that are in charge of this. So how do we have the opportunity to research this for ourselves and decide if this is something that we want to support?
Well, all I can say to the board is you will either take money now and, or we'll be providing more support services and more special education and more of everything as these children filter up through our school system. We're gonna either pay now or pay later.
You could also submit a site and then drop it. You're never obligated to take grant money, there's nobody with a gun.
Ken, it changes, okay? It changes.
It does change every time you call the office, I will tell you that. Because they have not written the grant, they are morphing the rules as they go along. They are trying to spin it to accommodate the best number of school districts, the largest number of school districts. So what was a rule before is now just a recommendation. And now the next time you call them, that recommendation might be a hint. I mean, the severity of what you have to do and can't do is changing because the final form of the grant is not written. They have a format of what the Fed wants it to look like, but they haven't actually applied it.
But the money is coming to Connecticut. Because there were a few states selected. Connecticut had never received race to the top money, and so they have received this money.
The other concern that I have is just how fast this is moving up on the legislative tracker for making us have mandatory preschool. So, I mean, we have to consider that as well.
Mandatory preschool?
Yes.
We don't even have
Integrated
mandatory
classrooms.
kindergarten yet. So
But this administration and the majority of the state reps that are in Hartford right now, that is their focus. And if you look, it's moved up like 800 on the legislative tracker. So it's not going to be long until it's here.
So our action tonight is just whether or not we want to move forward, correct?
And who we want to be, list as the provider on the grant. Yes, yes.
I guess I just don't understand why, if this was discussed in the budget meeting last week, why the rest of the board didn't receive this information.
Because we didn't have time to get it in the packet.
That you couldn't email everybody though? I mean, I'm a little frustrated because I want to make an educated decision.
I'm just
And
giving you the
I don't want to
reason.
vote against something that I should be voting for.
Right.
But I can't even internalize this information right now. I
Well, I'm
mean,
just
I don't
giving you the reason
understand-
for the question that you asked.
Well,
I
that's
didn't have
fine.
time to get it in.
But I still don't understand why we couldn't have been notified via email or some other way, so that we could at least know this was out there. Honestly, I know some people that work in early childhood, and one of them asked me a few days ago, hey, I heard this and this, and she kind of described this situation. And I said, I don't know, I don't think that's true. why do people in the public know this and board members don't know this?
It was in the newspaper.
About this specifically? What
Following
day?
the budget meeting, Bruno over there from the Waterbury Republican ran an article about it.
But our board hadn't decided to do that.
He only reported on what the budget committee had discussed.
What we discussed to move
So
forward to the full board.
that put the idea up to the public.
And Jeff Zeiner came in and asked for clarifications too.
I'll apologize. I don't know if it was in the register because I didn't see the register.
It was before.
What's that?
It was preliminary.
I just don't think that this is changing so much in the past month. You're not really certain of what's going forward. I don't see how we do business like that. And I appreciate your effort, and I appreciate the superintendent's effort, but it's not anyone would ever do their business.
And
But
we'll
what's
have
this?
that opportunity coming up when we vote on it.
What's that?
We'll have that opportunity coming up under action items when we vote on it.
Right.
Everybody can say yes or no, and that'll be that.
What you do have in your packet tonight, though, no, I do.
Next, you have more than 2 seconds. Out of district. It's gonna come up again in about 25 minutes. We're gonna discuss it all over again, so.
I won't see it.
No, I'm saying, it's gonna come up all over again.
Discussion.
Of that?